South Carolina socialist. Can Florida adding Prager U to their curriculum be traced back to Bill Gates meddling in the U.S. education system? In my estimation, I mean, this is my theory. I mean, obviously, it's not a direct, a direct line. But the consistent undermining of U.S. education, because to sell his solution, he had to sell a problem with education. Bill Gates, because he's a billionaire, he has the idea, the same way like I walk down the street and I'm like, I think if trash cans were shaped a different way, it might be better. And, it's just a whim. And fortunately, because I don't know anything about this topic, it's good that I'm not a billionaire because I don't say like, I'm going to see if my personal sort of like theory works here. That's basically what happened with education. And after, 10 years of an experiment and billions of dollars shifted and priorities, and more importantly, the perspective on education and the demoralization of a generation or two of teachers. After all that, they hired the Rand Corporation, and the Rand Corporation did an assessment and found that no, in fact, the Gates Initiative in terms of the experiment on education, completely wrong. Should listen to actual educators. When you soften up an entire aspect of our society and you create the idea that public education is a problem, that nothing short of some type of wholesale radical approach is going to fix it, then it opens itself up. You're basically attacking the immune system of that whole, sort of like facet of our society. And so, attacks at CRT and all the attacks that we're seeing on education, understand, are attacks on public education. And so the idea that, it would lead to Prager U being part of the curriculum, this story here, and we've seen this, like this is happening in Wisconsin too. We're seeing this. This is happening around the country. New York Times reports $7,200 for every student, Arizona's ultimate experiment in school choice. This is a school voucher program where every student who decides to opt in gets $7,200, which they can go and spend at a private school. Now, this was Betsy DeVos's dream. She, in an interview with her husband, I don't know, half a decade or a decade before she was made Secretary of Education under the Trump administration, she had made it clear, I don't have a problem with public education. I have a problem with public schools. And what that meant is I don't mind tax dollars being collected for education. I just want them redeployed to private schools. And make no mistake about it, when she says private schools, she means parochial, religious schools. And in fact, any program you ever see for vouchers, I guarantee you, I don't have to see any of it to know for a fact the majority, if not the overwhelming majority of that money, is going to a religious school. Period. End of story.
And what makes this like Arizona program so like much more of an escalation is that that $7,200 voucher is available to every student, regardless of wealth, regardless of what school that it's going to go to, essentially private or religious. Like some of these other voucher programs in other states, it's more for, this is for low income people. And I don't agree with that at all. But this is much more large scale and potentially like dangerous if replicated in other states for sure.
And while we talk about this and what its a horrible impact is on public schools, or could be on public schools, and the fact that this is funding religious schools, and not just a little bit. The main thrust of this is going to religious schools. Again, make no mistake about it. I don't even need to know where it is in the country. If you tell me about this program, I will tell you the majority of the money is going to a religious school. This is you think about all of the complete straw man arguments about relieving of college debt being a regressive tax, that it was all going to wealthy people, which was total BS. Where are all those people now who were complaining about this as an upward redistribution? Where is it now? Because there is no school in Arizona that costs $7,200 a year. Maybe there's a couple, but the vast majority of them are not. What this is a subsidy to rich people so that they can go to a more expensive private school. Period. End of story. And it is always like that. Since launching last September, the program's grown from 12,000 students to more than 59,000, outpacing projections. State education officials estimate enrollment could grow to 100,000 by next year. It goes on to talk about this not being, like Emma has said, a low-income program. It is projected to cost $380 million next school year, paid for by the state's general fund. It's already creating new demand for private schools and sending more public money to middle and upper income families and religious schools. Unlike public schools, including charters in most instances, not every state, but most, private schools and homeschool parents are generally not required to administer state tests or report student outcomes. Now, you think about this, like the big push that we heard from all of these people who were in favor of school choice was, we need to measure success. The same people who were pushing data-driven outcomes, high stakes testing, are now pushing vouchers where there is no assessment. There's no benchmarks. There's no way whatsoever to know if these people are being educated. And in New York City and state, we see the problem with that because we have kids who are going to religiously funded schools, Orthodox Jewish schools, not all of them, but a significant number of them. And they're coming out of these schools and they cannot do anything. They don't know anything that is important to maintaining life in our society outside of the very narrow confines of their religious sect. It is a real problem. Iowa, which is launching a universal program similar, that means that everybody gets eligible, all but 6 of the state's 183 private schools have a religious or spiritual affiliation. That's according to the Des Moines Register. This story is in Arizona, where it is all, again, same dynamic. It's not quite this crazy, where 177 out of 183 schools getting these voucher monies are religious schools. Arizona, it's a little more few, but check this out. It talks about one particular school, Great Heart Christos School. This is a new way to bring families that never thought they could do private school, said Daniel Scoggin, co-founder of Great Hearts, who said the Christos School will cater to middle and lower income families. To fulfill that mission, tuition was calibrated at $9,700, just above the $7,200 voucher. Okay, but for a tremendous amount of people, an extra $2,500 a year is still out of touch. Mm-hmm. And according to the piece, in a working class neighborhood around Phoenix location, a few $100s a month can be the equivalent of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, said Wayne Winter, a pastor at Redemption Alabama Church, where Christos School will be based. Nearly 15,000 voucher recipients resided in zip codes with a median household income of over $100,000, according to state data from May. Just 6,400 or so recipients lived in zip codes with a median household of income of under $50,000. In other words, this is a subsidy to people who are already at the higher end of the income scale. Half the students using vouchers have never been enrolled in a public school. So it's not even a matter of choice. It's just a matter of subsidizing private schools, period. At prestigious schools in the Phoenix area, tuition can exceed $18,000 a year, far more than the average voucher. Private schools tend to be in wealthy areas, making commuting a challenge. This is a giveaway to the rich, with the only sort of like bonus for these Republicans who promote it, that it undercuts public education. This is in a state, Arizona, that already spends the lowest of any state per student, $10,000 per public school student. Hobbs is trying to repeal the universal vouchers, but because of the Republican-dominated legislature and, constituents like it.
Well, yeah.
Because they want to go to Christian schools, or they want to go to religious schools.
Right. Well, I mean, the people that aren't using the voucher aren't going to really be paying attention, but the people that want to send their kids to a religious or a private school will be.
Exactly.
And so, then it'll be 10 years from now, and public schools in Arizona will be completely gutted, and then it'll be too late.
Exactly. 100%. This type of stuff is incredibly toxic to not just public schools, but really to democracy. I mean, when you think back in Reconstruction, when the fundamental building blocks of American society as we know it now, and there was a genuine attempt by the radical Republicans to create a genuine democracy in this country, allow for voting, obviously try and integrate the freed slaves into the body politic and to give them some power. It was short-lived, without a doubt. But one of the fundamental building blocks of that was a public school education system that was really widely set up during that era. And this is a direct assault on it. A direct assault. And also, it's just funding religious schools.
And a direct assault on teachers' unions, we should say. They're in staunch opposition to this, in part because this is a way to get around teachers' unions. They don't have to deal with teachers' unions if at many of these private schools.